Great. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm Mia Tamburi. I'm the program director here at Cancer Bridges, and I'm also a member of the Education and Outreach Work Group for the Cancer and Environment Network of Southwestern Pennsylvania. Today's presentation is Animal Protein and Cancer Risks, What We Know and What We Can Do. This speaker series is a project of the Education and Outreach Work Group for the Cancer and Environment Network of Southwestern Pennsylvania, which is a network of organizations and individuals who are concerned about environmental chemicals and how they are contributing to our region's high rates of cancer. Cancer Bridges is co-sponsoring today's webinar. At Cancer Bridges, we provide support for those impacted by cancer, including counseling, support groups, health and wellness classes, family and youth activities, and much more. Our website can be found in the chat. We're at www.cancerbridges.org. If you happen to get disconnected, please log back into the webinar. And if you need technical assistance, send a message in the chat box. Also, please enter your questions and comments in the chat box throughout the presentation. Today's presentation is being recorded and will be available at both Cancer Bridges and Cancer and the Environment Network of Southwestern Pennsylvania's websites. At this time, I would like to introduce our speaker, Sally Lipsky. Sally is a plant-based nutrition educator, author, and speaker. She is a late-stage cancer survivor who combines her expertise in the field of adult learning with her knowledge and passion about plant-based nutrition. She authored the book Beyond Cancer, The Powerful Effect of Plant-Based Eating, and is a founder and president of the nonprofit Food and Health, and is also leader of Plant-Based Pittsburgh with the mission of creating communities of health-based on plant-centered food choices. So thank you for being here, Sally, and I will hand it off to you.
Well, thank you, Mia. It is a pleasure. So in my past career, I was educator, professor of education. So my first slide is, whoops, my first slide isn't working. Let's see. Let me make sure. Well, the bottom line is we're going to start with a quiz. There you go. Okay, this explains it, okay? So take a moment, people, and I have 5 questions there. And just think, write down, however, what you think the answers are, and then, of course, we'll go over the answers. So what do you think? Approximately what percentage of cancers are considered purely hereditary? Anybody want to take a think what the answer, or write it in the chat, or just wait for me? Huh?
We have a couple 5% in the chat and a 15%.
Okay, there you go. 5%, approximately 5% are purely hereditary. Okay. Populations eating soy products have lower rates of various cancers, including breast cancer. So you want to write your answers in the chat, true or false? Danny, I guess you're.
Yeah, I can keep an eye on it for you. You got lots of trues coming through.
True. Yes, because there is that misconception that soy is not good for you, but indeed it is very protective of cancer. And the populations who eat the most soy products, typically Asian, traditional Asian, have the lower rates of cancer. What food is the biggest fuel for cancer cells? Well, probably I always thought it was sugar until I learned otherwise. And given the title of my presentation, it should be no surprise that the answer is animal protein. It is what is fueling the cancer cell development. So What do you think? How many grams of fiber in a 3-ounce portion of salmon, which we're often encouraged to eat? Does anybody have answers in the chat? Or not?
We have a couple zeros. We have a 20.
0. Okay, we have to, yes.
I can move this to. a-
Fiber is only found in plants. Any kind of animal foods, dairy, meat, anything has no fiber. Yes. Somebody has their, someone could mute themselves. If you could put yourself on mute. I think we're hearing some background voices. And if you look at the American diet, less than 3% of adults get, well, actually, it's less than 3% of Americans, period, get adequate, because in this study, 14-year-olds were averaging 0. Male for boy 14-year-olds were averaging 0. And diet is so, fiber is so important. And finally, look at this, 3 ounces of chicken versus 3 ounces of tofu. There's some nutritional information that is often, again, the misinformation that gets out there, but you can see tofu is the better white meat if you look nutritionally and for other reasons, but it does. There's no cholesterol. The chicken has, yes, it has more protein, but we'll get into protein. Okay, so real quickly here, as Mia said, I am a late stage ovarian. It was 15 years ago. I thought I was a healthy middle-aged female a month after a clean bill of health from my gynecologist. I was diagnosed with advanced stage ovarian cancer. So I immediately had chemotherapy, surgery, but those that are familiar with ovarian cancer, it's often resistant to chemotherapy. I was told to expect a recurrence probably within 24 months. So even 6 months later in 2008, when I was no sign, evidence of disease, I was waiting, waiting for it to come back. Always anxious there. And it was by happenstance that I read an article about in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, no less, about a relationship between food and possibly cancer. And that just sort of like, whoa, I've got to find out more. I thought I was on the typical American diet, which was low fat turkey, fish, lots of dairy for calcium. And then I just led me in my journey. And I read more and more and felt as I read and changed my diet, that was a sense of, oh, I have some control over cancer. And that, of course, came with a lot more, less anxiety, more confidence. And here I am, 14 years after no evidence of disease, I still have no recurrence. So that's, and my mission is to educate others, because as I say, I had to dig for this information, and other people, especially cancer patients, shouldn't have to dig. It should be out there. So having said that, and yes, I feel free to write your questions in the chat, and there'll be time certainly after my PowerPoint to ask questions. So I just want to give you just an overview of the relationship between cancer and food, in particular animal protein. Know that when you're talking about the environment, it is your internal environment that is key to cancer development. That your diet is the most important risk factor for cancer. And it is primarily a nutrition responsive disease. It's one of those diseases of affluence, so to speak, where the more we center ourselves on animal protein, as we became an affluent society, the more we have an increase in cancer. study after study has shown populations that eat the most animal-based, animal-centered foods have an increased cancer risk, and plant foods have a decreased cancer risk. And this is where cancer turns on, your diet, turns on and off the hereditary aspect of here. So if you look microscopically, if you're eating animal foods, T. Colin Campbell did this initial groundwork research showing that 5% of your daily calories in animal protein, there was no increase in the cell. We've gone up to 20% of animal protein, you see those cancer cells start proliferating. And another aspect here is the higher up the food chain you go, the greater exposure you are to the pollutants that I know we're all concerned about, because they do bioaccumulate up the food chain. This is an example where you're told to eat fish for the omega-3s, but how do fish get those omega-3s? They eat the plants. So go to the source is the whole foods that the animals are eating is a good way to look at that. And finally, in this, I just wanted to just reaffirm what are the shown by the International Agency for Research on Cancer. They have group A that are highly probably carcinogen, and processed meat, hot dogs, deli meats, smoked meats. They are a carcinogen, and as well as the salted fishes that are made Asian populations. And then the probably are the high temperatures, how you're cooking the meat, and the nitrates you're using for preservatives. Okay. So having said that, if you are eating meat, how can you reduce some of the cancer-causing properties of that meat? So, few points here. We, as it's shown in the previous slide, processing meat, red meat or white meat, produces some carcinogens there. And also the cooking temperature. If you're looking for what is the safest temperature, it's 260 degrees Fahrenheit or below, which most of the time people aren't doing. So if you're looking at how do I cook meat products, animal products, make it boiling or microwaving your meat, it would be the safest way to do it. The worst way as far as forming carcinogens, it is the high temperatures, the broiling, the roasting, or the pan frying that form the crust, especially, which increases the cancer-causing substances on the meat. Another point is if you're turning the meat often when cooking, you lower the risk as opposed to just leaving the meat on the heating source. Cooking until rare now, which adds another element because, how rare are you going to make it? But they recommend, what's recommended, pale and soft, which does sound rather unappetizing to me, but rather than that dark crust forming. It is that high temperatures in the dark crust that is forming the carcinogens on your meat. And I didn't realize this till I was looking into this and research that if you have some type of vinegar as a marinade, it lowers the formation of the carcinogens. So somehow that's changing. Yes. They gave the chemical reason, but to be honest with you, I just took the bottom line here to let you know this. And this is another part that I hadn't thought about is the fumes. And they're showing in research is the really significant health threat. But again, this group here is shouldn't surprise you given the outside environmental aspect, that really when the summer, when you're not wearing shorts or very light clothing, it really gives very little to no protection from the carcinogens, the gas that's coming from the barbecues. And that they have shown that the fumes can stick to the clothing. And when you're going inside, if those of us, you smell it, you smell the fumes, but that also means that people are exposed to it the carcinogen fumes are on yourself. So that's another thing to consider here. So having said that, let's talk about, okay, so what do I mean by plant-centered, plant-based eating? So let's just look at some categories to clarify. If we're talking about how do you label people's diets, most of us in the societies, and as I say, is developing world here, are omnivores. They eat animals and they eat plants, the combination of various ratios. Vegetarians, they eat no meat, poultry, fish, but they do have cheese and various dairy products. Some of them also, it depends how strict they are, will have egg products. Vegans are grouped as no, and vegans as usually, if people say I am a vegan, oftentimes they come from an ethical standpoint, looking at the animal health, not slaughtering, the flesh and the animals. Also, there's more and more emphasis on veganism as an environmental, because we look at the climate change. And a subset of the vegan, I call it healthy vegan, is what I practice, which is the whole food plant-based eating, where there's no animal foods and minimal processed foods, minimal added fats, oil, sugar, and salt. Okay, and I'll explain more of that. If you're not familiar with it, it doesn't have to be overwhelming and restrictive. But the bottom line, again, if we're looking at disease formation, those populations with the highest eating most meat are the higher rate of chronic disease. Number one killer is coronary heart disease, high blood pressure. We have type 2 diabetes. We have various cancers, 13 different types of cancers that are actually more than that. I shouldn't have said that. 13, I'm thinking about the looking at the different types of fats and autoimmune diseases. Yes. So why are we saying eat plants? Plants are the most effective for protecting and fighting off and even reversing disease. The key here is the nutritional value, which are called phytonutrients, and these phytonutrients have been shown to suppress the cancer growth. As I said in a previous slide, you can see that what is this cancer cells, what makes them develop into full-grown cancer or not. And these are the 4 nutritional elements that we'll go over: anti-inflammatory, antioxidants, immune system enhancers, and of course, fiber. And here's a chart. It just, you can see, we know that inflammation will stimulate all kinds of disease in the body. And if you look on the left-hand side, these are some things, foods as well as lifestyle things that have been shown to inhibit inflation. And the right hand, of course, are those foods and lifestyle that have been shown to increase inflammation. Antioxidants, 64 times more antioxidants in plant foods than animal. And again, I just have 2 rows of just a few things. It's not the total list, but in particular that have shown to be very high in antioxidants. And we have heard more and more since COVID about the immune system. And it is true that it is those phytonutrients that help build up our immune system. And some of the elements here, foods, vitamin D3 is another good one, lower stress. And I like this when we're talking about cancer, that William Lee, you said, can we starve cancer? Yes, we can. What we eat 3 times a day is our chemotherapy. What we eat every day, because I eat more than 3 times a day, but yes, it is what we can do. Okay, so I just want to tap on a few, when we're talking about like protein. I know when we're talking about animal protein, let's talk about protein as well. How much protein do we need? The recommended daily allowance, U.S. Department of Agriculture recommends 36% of your body weight. And you can figure that out with a little bit more than a third of your body weight in the grams of protein. So for men, that averages 50 to 60 grams. I'm just giving you an average. You can figure it out your own body weight. Women, it's usually 40 to 50 grams. But look at the chart on the, this is the average protein actually eaten. And as you can see, meat eaters almost double what they actually need. And that's why we're getting into this proliferation of chronic diseases, including cancer, is that what used to be a little side, fish or chicken, it used to be the peasant diet with some meat as a special holiday or flavoring, and now it is meat-centric dishes. Vegetarians, it's usually lots of dairy and cheeses, and vegans even surpass the recommended. So I have another chart here just to give you, because before I started eating this way, I had no idea that certain foods contained protein. We hear a lot about the legumes, the peas, beans, chickpeas, lentils, but I had no idea that a potato, oh yes, there's protein in one little gold potato. Pasta has protein, broccoli, protein, spinach. Well, I guess if you knew Popeye ate that, you would know that. All kinds of non-dairy milks, cereals, breads. So there's, if you're looking at the labels, it's amazing the amount of protein that our plant foods have. The other element that a lot of people, especially women, as I said, I was, before cancer, I thought I knew how to get my calcium, in. Well, little do we get the information that calcium from animals are very high acidity, and that plants, calcium from our plant sources are actually absorbed and tend to have a lower rate of fractures. That osteoporosis is often labeled as disease of lifestyle. And this is really important. The protein in dairy products called casein, it's a very high inflammatory protein. It has what's called the insulin-like growth factor, IGF, and that can fuel cancer cell growth. It's been linked to various, especially hormonal cancers, breast cancer, prostate cancer, ovarian cancer. They've seen a relationship between dairy consumption and the cancer cell growth. So so when people say, where do I start with this? I always say, just cut back on that dairy calcium. Try some different milks, cheeses, get rid of it. So that's always my first suggestion for them as they want to. But I want to show you, look at the difference here. Again, we're not given this information and how much calcium we can get from our various plant foods. It is very heartening to see that you can get, and plus I drink soy milk every day, lots of calcium enriched in various products that we're eating. And of course, this is what you hear, but I can't give up my cheese. And yes, and there's a reason people can't give up their cheese, because there's actually chemicals in cheese that light up the same area of the brain as opiates. And manufacturers know that. If there's a book by Neil Barnard, the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, he wrote a book about this. He came to Pittsburgh just a few years ago. He was talking about dairy, and he said he considers cheese, a chunk of cheese, a chunk of carcinogens. And I will never forget that. Like, whoa. You know, he was talking about all, not only the fat and cholesterol and salt, but the chemicals that are added in to it to actually increase addiction to dairy products. And the last nutritional thing I want to mention before we get into how to do this is the fact that it's recommended just to minimize fats, because I said earlier, there is a relationship between fat, obesity, and a wide spectrum of cancers. But the other thing too is it's also related, we know, to various chronic diseases, you know, that certainly type 2 diabetes is really related to our insulin resistance to the fats in our diet. And how many, I have a question up here. How many small green olives do you think you can eat to equal the calories in 1 tablespoon of olive oil? Because we're always saying olive oil is the go-to Mediterranean diet. You know, we're hearing all this. So I put up, and 1 tablespoon of olive oil, it really doesn't go too far. I can tell you right now, it's 120 calories. So how many olives could you eat? Anyone want to put that in the chat room to wake you up a little bit and give you another quiz question here?
I said 10.
10.
Got a 24.
25 small green olives.
Ooh.
Wow. And you know what the difference is? The olives are giving you fiber, they're giving you nutrition, and they're giving you some satiation, some fullness. Olive oil is a very, very highly, any oil, there's no healthy oil. It's you know, it's industry that's trying to tell us that. There's no, you don't feel full. And you know, when we put oils in dressings and sauteing or whatever, we tend to use a lot of it. And this is an illustration. If you're having 400 calories of oil, which is less than 4 tablespoons, you're not going to feel the fullness. If you have 400 calories of chicken, but versus 400 calories of vegetables, wow, your stomach is going to feel full. And that's how it just illustrates how much you can eat. You know, I eat throughout the day on a low-fat, plant-based eating. And just to put a fine point on this, these nutrients, this chart will show you, we've talked about fat, we've talked about protein, fiber, calcium, 500 calories of energy. Look at the difference in those, well, more than those 4, but you can see, just to emphasize that, encourage you, the anti-cancer elements, you'll still get all these key and more nutritional values. Okay, so let me switch here a little bit now to, let's go to the practical side of it. So what does this mean for your lifestyle, and how, if you're curious, how can you go from here? So plant-centered eating, there's basically 4 food groups. There's all variety of grains. Oh my heavens, a whole range of grains. There's vegetables, there's legumes, and there's fruits. We know that a lot of misconceptions, a myth is, oh, I have to eat all salads. It's like rabbit food. No, you're not, you can't subsist on that alone. And this is an example of something where you see a grain is the rice, all kinds of vegetables on it, peas, and there's a cashew dressing on it. As I say, I don't like to cook. I assemble meals more than cooking meals, but I do have to say, if you're interested and curious more, just use the dairy, the meat, the fish as smaller portions. So focus on the grains, focus on the complex carbohydrates, the vegetables, legumes, and use that chicken or the fish or anything, put it aside as a side dish or just a little bit as flavoring, as opposed to the center of your plate. Because we've gotten to the point when people say, what are you having for dinner? They'll say chicken, pot roast. There tends to be that animal product. And so much, if you look at over the last 30 years, what has our consumption grown in? Cheese is number 1 and oils are number 2. Okay. So, as I said, I don't like to cook a lot. I assemble. So this is my recommendation. This is how I think of each meal over the years. Complex carbohydrates are the key. They are going to give you the fuel, the energy, and so much fiber. So when someone says, where do you get your protein? I say, where do you get your fiber? And what are the complex carbohydrates? They are the whole grains, and you can buy prepackaged, that's fine. They are the starchy vegetables. In other words, eat a starchy diet. And they're the legumes, the beans, the chickpeas, all those bean-centric. Okay, use these 3 as the base, these 3 food categories. And I have several pictures and examples for you. Then you can add some non-starchy vegetables and fruits. This is just, of course, just partial list, but some things that are common most people would consider this common, the fruits. And I do have to say, frozen are great. That's probably last because they retain the nutrition. And as we're entering the fall in the colder months, you have it there and they're convenient, and you can just get bags full and just use it to your heart's content. Okay, step 3 is, well, what do you want to do for flavor? And this comes into your dressing, sauces, spices. So here's a shopping list that, a lot of people tend to me included, to think about. There's all kinds of non-dairy milks. If you do go there, try to get those without added oils and sugars, but you can experiment. You can even make your own if you want to do that. And I can answer your questions on the various non-dairy milks. This other part of this list is, nutritional yeast. If you haven't heard of that, you see it more and more, even Giant Eagle. It is a cheese substitute used a lot in sauces, flavorings. And I do not cook with any oil in my house. I can't say I'm oil free. When I'm out eating or something like that, I know there's oil, but I don't cook with any oil because you don't need it to saute. I usually use just water or a broth. But and I make my own Salad dressing, you can buy oil-free salad dressing. So I either make a vinegar base, and I have two kinds, and I have a creamy base in my fridge right now. And then, of course, there are the common meat-like, I call them items, seitan, and I'm sure some of you have tried these. Tofu, tempeh. The only caution I give is with the veggie burgers. I do a presentation on reading labels, and it's amazing when you start reading the veggie labels, the veggie burger labels, because they are amazingly high in fat and sodium. Yeah, it's a tough one. I do have a mixture that if you're interested in anything, any further information here, please email me at plantbasedpittsburgh@gmail.com. So let's look at some examples. So this is some examples of breakfast where you have the first item is a complex carb, and then fruit, vegetables, and flavorings. You can go all, depends how elaborate. I like easy. I do oatmeal every day because I like the taste of it. And it's easy, microwavable. But, you know, certainly there's other options. I just put down a few here. Lunch and dinner examples. Let's see. I love potatoes. I use a lot of potatoes, but you'll see other dishes here that I've made. Oh, I have another one here with some lunch and dinner examples. Make a lot. Make a lot because I love leftovers, and you want to use the freezer. We'll get into that. I have a slide on convenience. And also you'll notice that a lot of these are what are considered one-pot meals because they are, whether it's a soup, a stew, a salad with a whole bunch of stuff in it. It's easy, it can be very simple, and you can bring it to work or whatever that you're going. And this is an example. I did a cooking class once on one-pot meals. And this is an example of a 10-minute, we actually timed it, 10-minute one-pot meal where there was quinoa, a can of tomatoes, a can of beans, frozen mixed vegetables, salsa for flavoring, heat and serve, and there you go. A whole big pot full. You can have some, you can put it on over a salad, you can freeze some, you can add it to a soup, you can just eat it as it is, but you have it there. Okay, so what are some tips for easing preparation, some things I recommend? And this is especially if you're just starting out and you want to make some changes in your eating habits, shopping lists are and prepared meal plans. You can get them free online. There's some, if you go to Plant Based Pittsburgh, there's a resource list, or email me and I have the last slide or some resources too. But it helps to know what you're looking for. And then you get to the point where, everything is sort of second nature. You're changing your habits to the fact you know what you like and what you want. Certainly, we probably already do this, but bulk, I buy pre-minced garlic, pre-chop, make it as easy as I can. You know, again, preparing in advance helps, having things ready. And this is, I just want to take a moment here. I'll tell you what I think is the most convenient, well, we have to say freezer, okay? Because I don't know where I'd be without having things ready in the freezer. And as I said, I always at least double or triple. If I'm making pasta, I make a whole bag and then put it in smaller bags, and so that I can pull out a serving or just one that has 2 servings or whatever, and pour our marinara sauce over it. So especially grains, potatoes, whatever, rice, make a lot, or even sauces. I put down ice cube trays because, and I've learned is when you have, say salsa, you can freeze individual everything in sauces and salsa, whatever, in ice cube trays. When they're frozen, pop them in a large Ziploc bag and then take out broth as you need it. Take out the pureed lemon as you need it. There's all kinds of things that you'll be happy that you have it there. I could not, I'm just addicted to my high-powered blender. I love it. And there's various kinds that you can get, but creamy soup, smoothies, just chopping things quickly. I also have a quick chopper that I like to. And of course, microwave I use a lot. Some people really like their crock pots and Instant Pots. Air fryer, it's a good one. I've mentioned this several times, the beauty of cooking in quantity. Preparing, I do my oatmeal the night before. I put my oatmeal in a bowl with the water, the cinnamon, the berries, whatever, and then I just quickly microwave it for the next morning. And you can buy shipped plant-based meals if you're interested, and some of them are freeze-dried, so they're good for traveling or just keeping in your pantry. And finally, regarding food is if you're looking at anti-cancer nutrition, this is a chapter of this in my book, but I just wanted you to, there are foods that in particular I'm very mindful of eating. The dark leafy, the greens and cruciferous. Berries I have every day. Flax seeds are wonderful because they're lignin and very full of nutrition and omega-3. We've heard a lot about turmeric and whether it's in how it's easily absorbed, but I put it in salad dressings. I love cumin, the Mideastern flavorings. And the multicolor, in other words, the color is the nutrition, the vitamins and minerals. And the more color that you're having, the more those vitamins and minerals, that nutritional component, they're going to synergize with one another. Because it's not one food, one vitamin, one mineral, whatever. It's how they work together within your environment. You are changing the environment at a cellular level within your body. When you're really focusing on the plants. So I have, I think, 3 final slides here. One is just to summarize here. It is within a week, within 10 days, we have shown that the immediacy of food in your body, the effect it's having, it is profound. It has a profound impact. It's physical, mentally, emotionally. And the other thing too, because I don't say don't eat that. I don't advocate for restrictive in any way, that I don't call food as good or bad, but I like to think of what makes it more nutritious. My thing is I really don't want cancer to come back. So it's like what you do eat is as important what you don't eat. So focus on what you want to eat. I do. You do change amazingly also your food desires, your taste buds. Things will seem very, very sweet or oily to me that didn't previous to plant-based eating. It can be simple, it can be inexpensive. It can be elaborate if you want, but know that it doesn't have to be. And this is really key, is the fact that you don't feel isolated. And that's where I've been working to do Plant-Based Pittsburgh, so that we have, because the number one reason people who are eating this way stop eating is that they feel isolated, they feel unconnected to their friends, family, social. It takes effort. So this is Plant-Based Pittsburgh, and I invite you to go on our website to sign up for our newsletter. We do monthly, we haven't gotten to the full steam like we were before COVID with meetings in 4 different locations in Pittsburgh, but we do online, certainly, at least, and we do in person. And we have tons of recipes, community outreach such as this. And if you're interested, we have this month, next week, we have an in-person meeting at the Mount Lebanon Public Library. Naomi Herman is going to lead that. And then next Thursday is our popular one, our 2-week countdown to Thanksgiving. And we have this wonderful cooking demo with Brittany Giroudi. And anytime you sign up for our Zoom, even if you can't make it that day and time, I send the recording and I send all the recipes to anybody who has signed up. The next day you'll send that, and I have some meal plans that I'm going to send. And then in December we have another cooking demo. It's in person and Zoom at the Murraysville Community Library, so you can check that out. And finally, I told you I have some helpful resources related to food, but also cancer in relationship to food that I think is really very helpful. And then again, evidence-based, that's key.
Sally, I have a couple questions. Can I go? I just want to be mindful of time, and I want to.
Yes, I am done here. Yes.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Wonderful.
Do you want me to quick sharing or keep this up?
No, I think I can just ask. No, it's fine. Maybe leave that resource up there in case people are interested in that. But one of the questions was, does a slow cooker fall into the safer method of preparing meat early on when you were talking about boiling? And
yes, generally, yes, because you're at a lower temperature. Okay. And like even air frying, look at the temperature that you're at. Yeah.
Okay. And then I had my own question about that, because we do love a nice grilled steak at my house. And I'm trying to make small changes myself as I learn. Would the new Blackstone fall into that as well, in terms of not being over an open flame, like the new Blackstone grills that are just you're not cooking over a higher flame? I know it's still grilling, but would that be a little bit
I'm not familiar. I don't know what a Blackstone.
It's basically just a flat grill cooking service. There is fire, but there's never an open flame on the meat. So
well, it probably would be better
the
way you're describing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Open flame, I think, probably that has that carcinogen deal going on. Okay. And then somebody asked about, do you have recipes for us to try? But I think you've kind of answered that.
Oh, yes.
I know I watch Brittany's YouTube channel.
Do you?
Yeah, Brittany has a lot of great for anybody who's interested in that. But you gave a bunch of great resources for recipes. So I think you answered that.
Yeah, tons on our site. And if you're not sure what you're looking for, email me. That's what I say. That's what I'm here for.
Okay, Jamil actually saying Blackstone is still high temperature. Yeah.
Okay.
So I have to cook my steak slower, I guess, and live at lower temperature. But the keto diet, somebody asked if you have anything to say about the.
I have a lot to say about the keto diet. None of it
we
is
only
good.
have a few minutes, but.
Yeah. U.S. News and World Report, when they rate the diets, that was at the bottom of the list, by the way. The keto diet, a lot of people were into it because they say it's, you lose weight and everything, and you will at the beginning, but it does a tremendous harm on your organs. All of that, it's not really not sustainable for health. It does a lot of all of that. It's high in animal protein and it's high in fat. And if somebody isn't convinced, email me. I'll send you all kinds of information how to try to dissuade you. And it just doesn't. The one diet the only diet that reverses heart disease is this low fat, fat-free. And the one diet that was rated as the most sustainable for weight loss, if that's one thing, is plant-based diet. Yeah, because you're full, you're eating a lot.
Another question is about supplements. Do you?
Yes, good
recommend-
one. Yeah.
Mhm.
B12 is the one supplement. But actually, if you eat animal food, you should also be that. But a small amount, 2.4 mcgs per day. I do about. You can get the B12 supplements in many places, and of course D3. Everyone should be aware of D3.
Another question was just about the slides. Sally, is it possible for folks to get a copy of the presentation, the slides, or?
I don't
already-
share my slides.
Okay.
I spend a tremendous amount of time on these slides.
Yep.
I can share the related resources, but I tell people a lot of this, if you want to buy my book, Beyond Cancer, it's $10.
Mhm.
On Amazon, you can buy also cheaper on the, of course, if you see me, I can give you a copy, but cheaper on the Kindle. But I just don't share them for obvious reasons.
And when it's recorded, so.
And it's
we'll be able
recorded,
to
exactly.
go
You can
and,
take
check
pictures
out
if you
the-
want. Yes,
Check
yes,
out the
yes.
recording if you missed information or wanted to listen again. I think I've gotten all the questions. I know at the end, we're gonna have a real short poll for everyone at the end of the session. If everybody could complete that. But I think I got all the questions. So thank you very much for being here, Sally. Really appreciate it. And just for those who are on, we are doing these monthly, this speaker series, and our next one is scheduled for the Thursday, December 6th at noon, and that's going to be on debris and wood burning. Kevin Stewart, from the Director of Environmental Health at the American Lung Association of the Mid-Atlantic, and Patrick Campbell, who's the Executive Director of Group Against Smog and Pollution, and also Sue Seppi from the same organization, will be presenting on that topic. So look for the advertisement for that. But you can always go to the Cancer and Environment Network of Southwestern Pennsylvania and see information about upcoming topics, and also on the Cancer Bridges website as well. So I think that's it then. We have everything. So thanks again, everybody, for being here. Always thank you, Sally. And here we have our little short, just take a second to go ahead and fill that out. That would be great. Fill it out myself. All right. All right. Andre, can you tell if we got who we need for the poll?
Is this being recorded?
Did somebody ask if it was being recorded?
Yes, sorry, I just got on really late.
Yes, Anna, it is being recorded, and we will have it on the Cancer Bridges website on our calendar. It'll probably be there for every Friday, so you could register and watch it back then, or on the Cancer and Environment Network of Southwestern Pennsylvania's website. It will be posted as well.
I'm sorry, Would that be in our email? I'm sorry, I totally checked out on that.
Yes, you'll see it on the Cancer Bridges calendar.
Oh, got it. Got
Yep,
it. Okay,
yep.
thank you so much. I'm so sorry. I'm
No
having a tough
problem.
one of those days. Thank
No
you.
problem at all. No problem at all.